Greetings and welcome to Retro Friday.
Base 8, 9, and 10 sealed. Scaffold decks A, B, C secure.
And what else could we be playing but the
All
classic,
systems green.
the beautiful,
What a beautiful sight.
the legendary Homeworld? A game that set the standard for space-based RTS.
This is Fleet Command. Reporting Mothership pre-launch status.
But perhaps more than that,
Command online.
it set a standard
Resourcing online.
for cinematic storytelling
Construction online.
and sheer jaw-dropping
Cryogenic
immersive
subsections
beauty,
A through J online.
and arguably
K through S online.
still has to be beaten to this day.
Scaffold control, stand by for alignment.
This game is important to me for so many reasons. But at its core, it was just a brilliant gaming experience.
Alignment confirmed. Stand by, release control.
The mothership has cleared the scaffold.
All caliber banks released.
We are away.
The mothership has cleared the scaffold. We are away.
Oh, that intro is one of the best, in my opinion. It's one of the all-time great intros to a video game that I've ever played. And it comes together brilliantly, despite the fact that it's very simply done. I mean, it's using the in-game engine, which is, you know, a very nice at rendering what it does, but you've got no fancy character models there, you know, you've got no full-motion video. You've got just the game engine, some nicely cut together scenes, and a fantastic soundtrack. And that is where this game really shines. I mean, it was a solid RTS, don't get me wrong, but the story set this game apart. It made it an experience that people remembered, you know, and still remember to this day incredibly fondly. I mean, it's not often that a game will provoke a strong emotional reaction in me. I mean, it does happen, and a well-made game should produce some kind of emotional response, but this game, the intro sequence and the first few missions are so evocative, they're so well put together, and despite the fact that they're using, like I say, just the in-game assets, a few pieces of concept art or, you know, spliced together, it still manages to create an incredibly powerful narrative that draws you in and really makes you care about the fate of this ship, you know, and these people.
Repair
And
that complete.
it's that makes this game a classic. Yeah, it's a good RTS game as well. It's a fun game. It needs that. It needs to be a good, solid game. It's a beautiful game. The engine is really, you know, beautifully rendered. The space backgrounds. It's not a realistic space game, but it's a very sci-fi space opera type space game. You know, I mean, it's very reminiscent of a lot of sci-fi TV shows, and that's not a coincidence, by the way. The game was originally conceived as a Battlestar Galactica game. They wanted to get the license to create a Battlestar Galactica game, a real-time strategy game. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view, they weren't able to secure the license, and so the Homeworld universe was born, and I think that freedom, actually not being tied into an existing IP, probably wound up making it a better game in the long run. It meant that they could be more creative with the story. It meant that they could be more free with the music and stuff that they use, and it wasn't a big budget game. I mean, you have to remember, at the time, real-time strategy games were still relatively new. The formula had been established, but it didn't necessarily have the track record to warrant a large commercial investment. And of course, this as well was a different type of real-time strategy. Nobody had tried to do it in full 3D in space before. So there wasn't a lot of money in the budget, as I understand it, to make the game, and that was reflected in various decisions that they made. They used a lot of the concept art sort of cut together to create the cutscenes. They used the in-game engine for the rest of it. and most if not all of the music is either kind of like relatively simple ambient music like you get during the actual gameplay, or it's classical music, which of course has no composition costs associated with it. You can just use it. You need someone to perform it, but you can just use it. That's where the adagio of strings. That's why the adagio of strings is used in the beginning. I mean, which is amazing, because actually it's fantastic, and I can't imagine this game with a different piece of music there. It's just, it fits it so perfectly. But yeah, that is the truth of it. That a lot of the decisions were made because they didn't have a massive budget, and yet they managed to craft an absolute work of art. I mean, it's simply a beautiful narrative experience and a brilliant gaming experience to play through. And if you haven't played it, I strongly recommend it. Of course, the advantage is you don't have to go with this retro version. This is the original, the classic version, installed from my original CD that I had. However, the reason why I'm doing this now, and the reason why I got inspired to play Homeworld once again, is because they have released a remastered version, and the remastered version updates the whole thing. It gives it updated higher poly count models and textures, improves some of the rendering techniques. I think things like some of the trails and flare effects and the sort of things you would expect from a remastered version, basically, whilst leaving the gameplay and the story pretty much untouched. There are a couple of changes. In the original, in the classic version, you had fuel for your small ships, your fighters and your corvettes, and you needed to use support frigates such as this in order to refuel them on the fly when they were out and about, which introduced interesting gameplay elements, especially into some of the larger maps and into some of the multiplayer setups. In the single-player narrative campaign, to be fair, it wasn't really usually required. The levels tended to be small enough, and you tended to get through them quick enough, and fuel was a bit of a frustration more than anything else, which is perhaps why they removed it, and also because it wasn't in Homeworld 2, so in order to create consistency between the two. But I still think it's a bit of a shame, nonetheless. Gameplay-wise, it's a fairly typical RTS. You have resource collectors who go out to resource pockets distributed around the map to gather them and bring them back to your base, or in this case your mothership or other resource controlling unit, and you use those resources to construct more ships, bigger ships, better ships, which you can also research to unlock, and then you send them against your enemies in massive space battles. The real joy of the game for me, though, is in just sitting back and taking in the spectacle, watching the ships flying around, watching battles rage as hordes of tiny fighters dance in and out of each other, immersing yourself in the story of the campaign as it progresses, as you discover the secrets of the history of your people when you strike out into an unknown and hostile galaxy. It's all of these things that come together to create such a wonderful gaming experience, and it really has reminded me just how great this game is watching the remastered version. And I think it's if you're going to remaster any game, this is a fantastic one to go back to. With just a little bit of prettying up of the graphics, you have a game which can stand shoulder to shoulder with any game released today. So there we go. That is probably enough said about the joys, the wonder that is Homeworld. It is an amazing game, and I have gushed repeatedly about it. And I suspect you are now fully aware of just how much I love this game and how pleased I am that a remastered version has come along and that a new generation of people can enjoy it, and that us old-timers can enjoy it once again in lovely high definition. It's been a bit of an odd Retro Friday, I apologise. It's been pretty much exclusively post-commentary, I think. I did record some commentary, I did try recording the game, but because I didn't want to do the narrative campaign, I didn't want to sort of show off parts of the story too much, because there are really good Let's Plays of the remastered version if that's what you're interested in watching, and I didn't want to necessarily take away from that. And also, it's the sort of experience where if you have any interest in playing this game and you haven't yet bought it, you should go and buy it and you should play it, because if you can go into it without knowing what's going to happen, it's just going to be that much more impressive an experience. I mean, it's difficult with such an old game. Spoilers are going to abound. It's going to be very easy to find out. But if you can keep your eyes shut long enough and go out and play the game, then you should, because it will be awesome. If I could somehow wipe my memory and go back and play this game freshly now, I would be a very happy bunny indeed. So I don't want to try and take that away from anybody. I don't want anyone to accidentally receive any spoilers from watching this video. So it's pretty much just random footage in the background with me talking over and generally gushing about how much I love Homeworld and how much of a wonderful game it is. And because I do love Homeworld, and it is a wonderful game. I should also say that part of the reason why this game is so special to me is because it's the first game that I ever started to seriously mod. And moreover, it was a mod project that I actually shared on the internet and got a little bit of exposure for. I actually got a half page in, I think it was PC Format or PC Review magazine, it was one of the two, for my Battlestar Galactica mod, which really was just replacing the fighters with some of my own rather crudely made fighters from Battlestar Galactica, the Vipers, Viper Mark 1s, because of course the new series had not come out at this point, and a few other ships and things as well. After a while I actually managed to gather a small team, including some people who were much better 3D modelers than myself, and we added quite a few ships into the mod, but as with mod projects, as mod projects often do, sadly it fizzled out. It's not the most moddable game. You really had to hack it to get into it, and it was very difficult to make any changes beyond just cosmetically replacing the models. And because there were other people better at it than I was, it kind of left me floundering around a little bit. So yeah, whilst it didn't really go anywhere, it whetted my appetite for game development, and it was the first really kind of like significant thing in that respect to happen to me. So it was an awesome experience, and I really, it was really cool. But that is besides the point. I've been gushing plenty about this game now. I think probably we should leave it there. So thanks a lot for watching, everybody. I apologise if this isn't your cup of tea. We're still experimenting with the format of the various shows. So if you don't like the way that this one was done, please do let me know. Otherwise, I have been Weird Wizard. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody, and I will see you later.